My name is Mila Mucic, and I'm an anthropology and environmental systems student at UCLA. I'm excited to share my project with you, which is titled Careers of Care: Gendered Reasoning and Socioeconomic Outcomes of Marine Responsibility in Los Angeles. This is the result of 2 years of research through the UCLA Anthropological Honors Program. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I love our beaches. So, last summer, I sought out the people who do the work to make sure our local beaches and oceans are and remain safe and beautiful for everyone. I talked to employees working at non-government organizations which bring people together to do good or important deeds the government cannot or will not do. NGOs often rely on networks of poorly paid, often female laborers to provide social and material assets that the public comes to depend upon. The NGOs in this study employ citizens to carry out marine management and conservation across Los Angeles to ensure the longevity of ocean and beach resources. This includes water safety monitoring, marine science initiatives, and community education. This work is important because it makes sure humans can use marine resources like recreation, fishing, tourism, travel, and more at sustainable levels that allow ocean ecosystems to be maintained. So, we need to understand who makes a career out of this essential goal and why they choose to do it. I reached out to 45 total people employed by multiple Los Angeles marine NGOs. First off, I noticed that 80% of all employees were women. Further, only female employees accepted my interview requests. These preliminary observations alone show the high ratio of female to male employees at these marine NGOs, as well as a greater potential willingness to further the environmental goals amongst females when compared to males. Of course, this also places limitations on the study, as it means only female participants were interviewed concerning their reasons for and experiences of working at LA Marine NGOs. However, at public events hosted by these non-government institutions, employees of both genders were observed to gather further data. This data provided three main conclusions. 1. Environmental work is, by nature, care work. Female employees go into environmental work because they are propelled by a deep passion for the environment and those living in it. Duties performed in these roles are similar to other forms of care work because they have deep emotional ties and serve to benefit other living beings, even those who are not traditionally thought of as related to the marine care worker herself. The second argument is, like other forms of care work, more women than men go into environmental management due to cultural and historical factors that make it so that women are expected to act as more caring than their male counterparts. And 3. Because environmental care work is dominated by women, it is socially and economically devalued. This includes negative stereotypes of feminized labor and lower wages or other associated financial awards, despite these women's high academic and professional achievements. From recent U.S. demographic data of community care and environmental science work, previously thought of as two separate career categories, it is evident that more women than men are employed in these sectors. However, it is also obvious that women still earn less than their male counterparts in these roles. Women don't earn less than men because they are less qualified. The women in the study prove that, as all of them have university degrees and impressive academic or professional experiences. For example, many of them had earned graduate degrees or were involved in effective environmental advocacy efforts prior to their NGO positions. Yet, participants in the study often reported unsatisfactory financial outcomes from their current work, similar to patterns seen across the United States. Women's work is often underpaid in comparison to men because of their perceived inferior gender. In fact, contemporary theorists argue that the more female dominated a field is, the more likely it is to be economically devalued. Misogyny, or the systemic prejudice against women, is ingrained in American professional life. Studies of political economy show that social and political ideologies, like formal labor, shape market value, and vice versa. So, because misogyny is historically normal in American culture, evident in women's wages and social statuses, female dominated workforces like environmental care suffer negative economic consequences. One woman who I interviewed, named Tegan, used to work for a tech company. When she left that position to become a beach advocate at an environmental NGO, she described her career change as a pay cut and a passion raise. When she worked at an AI startup previously, a workplace dominated by male employees, she found her professional life unfulfilling despite the high salary she received. Tegan decided to take a job at the largely female employed NGO, knowing that it paid much less, while at the same time earning her doctorate degree. Tegan's story highlights just how much of an economic difference there is based on social constructions of mainly female or mainly male labor forces. Yet, despite this large pay cut, Tegan decided the change was worth it to help others in Los Angeles respect and learn about local beaches. An employee at the same company as Tegan, named Ella, echoed the financial undervaluation of women's environmental care work through a different lens. Ella spoke to the fact that government grants for marine science, which contained a few $1,000s that NGOs had to apply for and earn in order to carry out important ocean research, had always been hard to come by. But when Donald Trump took office, the money became far less in amount, as well as much harder to earn. Trump's presidency marked a harsh conservative shift in American politics in which both women and women led industries like environmental care were devalued and defunded by right wing leadership. Even though this is non wage money, the financial issues marine NGOs struggled with became exacerbated under these increased ideologies, further emphasizing the role of the political economy on social meanings and economic outcomes of women's labor. So, why do women continue to go into environmental care, knowing these negative social and economic effects? Well, it's a combination of sociocultural push and pull factors that encourage women to be passionate about caring for others, including caring for the environment that others inhabit. Multiple women in interviews expressed that they chose to go into environmental care positions at their respective nonprofits, despite the negative drawbacks discussed, because it was worth it to protect the land that people and animals alike needed. Women cared for living beings and their futures, even those not traditionally seen as related to themselves. In interviews, many mentioned that they chose their fields of study and work based on their love for animals. Others expressed a passion for protecting nature, specifically water environments. This qualitative data shows that the women in the study are highly altruistic, meaning that they exhibit unselfish behaviors that benefit others, even if it results in limited reward or personal cost to themselves. The caring work performed even with evidence of unsatisfactory financial associations proves participants' altruism because they knowingly accept negative socioeconomic impacts in order to better others and their environment. According to gender socialization theory, women are raised to be more altruistic than men because of a long history of gendered expectations. This partially explains why they may be more likely to take on environmental care roles and other types of care work, as they are theoretically conditioned from early life to perform more caring behavior than men. This is in combination with a history of gendered career segregation, in which women were traditionally expected or only allowed to take on care roles, like nursing or teaching, while accepting the negative impacts of misogynist political economic systems. In all, environmental management and science are female dominated because women have traditionally been limited to feminized care roles that contain negative economic associations, while also being socialized to behave altruistically. In observing a public elementary education event hosted by NGO employees, I witnessed this firsthand. Although there were more women than men working the marine science event, likely due to the higher amount of female employees on staff, multiple workers of both genders were present at the beach site. However, it was often the women who took charge of caring for and educating the youth in attendance on the importance of ocean conservation. For example, it was the female NGO employees who took responsibility of accounting for each child in attendance, ensuring they paid attention and were safe. Likewise, they instructed study cohorts and demonstrated water testing techniques for the crowd. I call this pattern professional allocare, or the cooperative practice in which individuals help educate and ensure the well being of children who are not biologically their own through roles in the formal economy. While professional allocare illustrates the willingness of female employees to further the missions of the marine NGOs through their impressive talent and knowledge, it's more than just that. These women took on the majority of caring for and educating seemingly unrelated young beachgoers because they are altruistic, caring individuals. Environmental labor is successfully carried out because of the selfless work of women like these who ensure the future of healthy marine resources. In conclusion, it is through a long history of culture, economics, and politics that women have often become the underpaid and undervalued caretakers of our public environmental spaces. The care work they carry out through NGO employment is selfless, as it ensures that anyone and everyone can sustainably and safely access Los Angeles beaches. Feminist political economic studies, as well as a growing body of environmental anthropology, address the necessity of formal, although feminized, care work in contemporary environmental management regimes. The state of California itself has acknowledged that our thriving coastlines could not exist without marine NGO work and workers like the ones in this study. We need to pay special attention to the women who dedicate their careers to marine care, even with the associated economic and social drawbacks. It is because of their intelligence, achievements, and altruism that Los Angeles NGOs can protect the places and resources we all depend upon. Access to the beach and oceans is necessary to sustain lifeways. This is where you, me, and other humans, plants, and animals depend upon to live and to thrive. Especially in times of intense political and climate changes like today, if you and your community want to continue using these places, then these women and the impacts of their work matter to all of us. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to everyone who helped me with this project, namely my family for their endless love and encouragement, especially my brother Jake in the production of this video. Special shout out to my amazing advisor, Dr. Jessica Catalino. And thank you to all of my instructors and peers in the Lemelson Honors Program, including Dr. Robert Lemelson for his support. And endless thanks to my project participants, both for their aid in constructing this thesis and for the work they do every day to care for the oceans we all love.